Hello, good evening, and welcome to this Friday night edition of The Locker Room. I'm Andres Cordero. My friends call me Dre, and I've brought four of them with us today. In fact, we've got more nationalities represented today than the U.S. under Jurgen Klinsmann. On my right-hand side, Phil Shane, Jaime Macias. Welcome.
Okay. Am I the German-American?
Sure.
Okay,
yeah.
Good.
Thomas Rongen, George Metellus.
I'm Swedish.
Well, you are sweet.
Yeah,
so.
Swedish.
Is that the Jorginho Chocolat nickname?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I might as well be Mexican because my first beer at age 5 and my grandfather was Modelo, 1925, baby. That's what this team.
Oh, that's when you had your first beer in 1925. Oh,
wasn't Heineken, it was Modelo.
Okay, cool.
Sponsors get their money's worth on this program. We begin tonight with our international connection, brought to you by Modelo Especial. And as far as international football is concerned, we're all in a bit of a panic over the U.S. national team because they find themselves on the outside of the direct places for World Cup qualifying coming in. That is following the draw 1-1 against Honduras away in San Pedro Sula. A late equalizer by Bobby Wood sort of saved the blushes of the Americans. They say win your games at home, try and draw away. Is this a good point for the Americans, the fact that it's in San Pedro Sula?
In all honesty, you take a look at the way these two games went. I don't think there's reason to panic. 1 point out of 2 games sounds like it's disastrous. But the way it happened, they're in the driver's seat. The next match is going to be at home against Panama. They win that, and there's a decent chance they could qualify. The scary thing, though, is if that one ends up as a draw or even a loss, they go to Trinidad, who have been waiting 3 decades for revenge. So it's a little too close for comfort. Is it panic? I wouldn't say so, though.
I think it's a good result only because they were losing. It's the only way it could be a good result. I don't think there could be panic because the U.S. is not going to qualify for the World Cup, but there should be a little panic on how the team is playing and why a team that is better than the teams they are visiting is not winning their matches. I think that's the key point. That's the key question.
Is that they're getting outplayed? I mean, Honduras.
They're getting outplayed. Yeah, you're right.
They had tactics, they had desire, and they were very unfortunate not to walk away with all 3 points.
Yeah,
and it's going to cost them a trip to the World Cup.
You're absolutely right. I think that the easy part of Bruce Arena coming back was giving calm to this team. That was a mess before. But now it had to give them something else to be better than the teams that they are facing on the pitch, and I think that's the key question now.
Well, you mentioned winning at home and then the draw. The reason why this is a good draw is because they beat Honduras 6-0 at home, and that's basically the reason why they're in 4th place as Honduras in 5th, is because of goal differential. Jaime makes a good point. It's how they played the game that should really frustrate American U.S. soccer fans. And this is not a problem under Bruce Arena. This is a problem under Klinsmann, under Bradley. This is a situation where it looks to me like the U.S. don't know what to do when they have the ball. They don't know how to play possession football, which in modern football, that's the way to go to score goals and to win games. They got a goal off of poor defending and a lucky bounce. That's how they got the equalizer.
That's also how they gave away.
Let me just explain to you, George, what's going on here. Right?
Okay.
So you get a better sense of that. I've been in San Pedro Sula 6 times. I've played on this field. This field is like your backyard and this long. It's bouncy. The only way maybe Spain can outplay a team like that. Nobody else will be able to do that. Getting a tie there is unbelievable. By the way, when after 2 games, right, Honduras at 4 points, Panama at 4 points, we at 0.
Yeah.
And we are in a position, as Phil said, to go to the World Cup. It's up to us right now. We don't depend on anybody else.
True.
You beat Honduras, you go on the road against TNT, get a result, you're in. If not, 3 teams are fighting your 4th spot who will play the winner, Australia, Syria. You want to go to Syria, maybe? Playing away?
And by the way, this is also
not a
interesting.
joke
I heard some people were saying that these 2 results, that they couldn't get more than just the single point, are damning for the United States, and they don't deserve to go to the World Cup. And I would kind of agree with what you're saying, though. This does not have anything to do with going to the World Cup. If you can't beat Panama at home and get a point in Trinidad, you don't deserve to go to the World Cup.
So, to your point, Phil, they control their own destiny.
Yes.
The U.S. control their own destiny. One of my frustrations historically with the U.S. national team, it happened in South Africa, it happened in Brazil, is when they praise the United States, they say they're well organized, they're disciplined, they never give up. You look at the games against Costa Rica and Honduras, they haven't looked well organized, they haven't looked very disciplined. So I wish they were saying at the end of those games, they're a great footballing side. Are they having a bit of an identity crisis?
To a point, and I think that it's been touched on before, and I would agree with what Jaime said in regards to the kick and run mentality, which I think you have to go back before 1990 to see a U.S. team that was reliant on that. I think you also take a look at that 94 team, and there was so much talent on the field, you would be shocked. I think the athleticism has increased. I do think there are talented players out there. They're not in the mix, though. And there would be one tactical switch, I think, that really turned this game around, and it had to do with personnel as well. But when Areola came in, when Cameron came in, with protection inside in Omar Gonzalez, who had a nightmare of a game until then, and then they put Bobby Wood up front, those three had a desire that was missing for the first 80 minutes, and the fact that they had switched the look, going with a three-back, gave them the cover that was missing when they basically were going up against the three youngsters in Lozano, Ellis, and Kyoto. They were just running through the United States till they were ragged.
Thomas, what you're scribbling down over there very diligently. Are you taking notes?
I think the only way, Dre, you can measure that, which Mexico has done in the Confederations Cup, to a certain extent, good, better, and different, in the World Cup as well. If you go back, let's just go back to 2002. We beat Portugal at Vigo. Yep. And not just kicking. We're outplayed that team, by the way. Yep. Okay, 2006, we tie Italy in a very even game as well.
On an own goal.
Exactly. In the Copa America, under Steve Sampson, when he got the job in 1997, we beat Argentina 95. And Brazil. Bob Bradley in the Confederations Cup beats Brazil and the European champion as well. So we get out of group play every time. Right. We've beaten some great teams. We beat Portugal and Mexico to get almost to the semifinals in 2002. Right. There's no identity crisis. It's the nature of the beast. Look at Costa Rica and Mexico. Costa Rica and Mexico tie games on the road. Mexico has won 5 games, just won nothing. You know, this is a tough because of circumstances. 4 o'clock. You ever been at 4 o'clock in San Pedro Sula?
4 o'clock in Miami.
Thomas.
I grew up in Miami. I'm used to 4 o'clock. I know how hot it is.
We could not blame the pitch, the atmosphere, the temperature, because that's the type of pitches at the temperature that you're playing in your zone, in your confederations.
Exactly.
The U.S. cannot expect to have U.S. or Mexico standard fields in the other places they are playing. That's something that you have to promote.
You touched on something that is precisely what I was leading to. When you say, Costa Rica for me is the perfect example of a team that knows what and who they are. And it's sometimes dreadful to watch, but it is brutally effective, as it was at the last World Cup.
Yeah.
Should the U.S. Are we kidding ourselves when under Jurgen Klinsmann we say we want to play a more attractive brand of football? It's maybe a little bit different under Bruce Arena. Doesn't care that much about being entertaining, just wants to win. But do we need to be more conservative? Do we need to be more defensive, more physical, play to our strengths?
Yes. We can't because we don't play possession attacking football. We can't string together more than 5 passes in the attacking half.
All the way back when I came to this country in the old NESL, with Pele, with George Best, with the best players, the Ronaldos, the Messis of the world were here. Phil knows that. The greatest players as well. Right. We played on artificial turf. We played in Toronto. Different time zones as well. And in terms of development, that's a long story. You cannot look at this team right now and say to Bruce Arena, who's got 4 games under his belt and is against 6 plays and needs to go to Russia. Let's see if we can integrate some plays. It is what it is right now. Yes, we didn't play particularly well. Yes, on a shit field. That's without a doubt as well. And all the teams that go to San Pedro, they struggle because of that. Do we know what to expect?
Only Panama 1-1.
But you can't elevate the level.
There.
Yeah, but then you have another question. Last point. Why it's so difficult for the U.S. to be the leading team, to be the favorite team? Because all the matches you said over there, and the best matches of the U.S. national team, is when they are the underdogs. When they visit Mexico, when nobody expects them to beat Spain, when they're facing Brazil. But where they're the favorite team and when they need to win the matches, with Costa Rica at home, with Honduras away, with Panama away, it's where they struggle the most.
The good news, of course, is the U.S. do still control their own destiny. The last 2 games at home against Panama, and away against Trinidad and Tobago, as Phil said. If they do not get that result.
Scary, by the way. Even
Australia is not even there yet, right? Australia was serious.
For me,
Australia's a better team than us.
I follow very much the Asian qualifiers. And Australia is a way better team than the U.S. And Syria, when you have all that motivational around the team, you can expect it. You could
similar in some ways to Venezuela and how difficult they are to beat at the moment because of things happening in the country.
And Venezuela have done the same thing. They went with the kids when it was risky, and now it's paying dividends. The one thing I would say is they are so fortunate. 2 wins, 8 games, and they're still in the driver's seat.
Right, I need to. Look at Argentina's last 2 games. They knew what to expect. The best talent in the world. They tie Venezuela at home. That's the way of football, all right? End of story.
We are going to talk about
CONMEBOL. That's the perfect segment. Just want to bring up that this international connection has been brought to you by Modelo Especial as we turn the page on CONCACAF.
This segment was brought to you by Modelo Especial, brewed with a fighting spirit since 1925.
No, Argentina don't either.
So you did mention South American World Cup qualifiers. That's where we're going to go next because Chile and Argentina, 2 of the biggest teams. In fact, the 2 teams that have met in the Yes, the two teams that have been in the last two South American championships, the Copa America Centenario edition in 2016, the Copa America final in 2015, are both in some very serious trouble. Let's start with the defending South American champions, Chile, who lose in Bolivia. It's not criminal to lose in Bolivia. Argentina allowed 6 goals in Bolivia a few World Cup qualifiers back. But the way Chile are playing right now, they've gone over 4 games without scoring a single goal. Are the South American champions going to miss the World Cup?
I think there's a very good possibility that they and Argentina could. I think Uruguay was in danger because Paraguay outplayed them, but then they came up with 2 very Uruguayan goals. There's a change going on in South America right now, and I think Brazil was at the leading edge of that. They got rid of the old guard, brought in the new. Tite has been able to turn that one around. I think in too many ways, Argentina has been unable to make that same adaptation. As far as Chile goes, you're looking on your 3rd coach away from Bielsa, and Sampaoli was pretty much Bielsa intensified, modernized, Bielsa version 2.0. Pizzi is a little bit different, tinkering. Somewhat similar to what we saw with Luis Enrique in Barcelona, where it got away from the Barcelona mentality. Even if they were winning, it wasn't quite the same. Same story with Chile. And right now, this is a team that the personnel is getting a little bit older. The style is changing. I think he's lost the locker room in just the worst possible timing of it. There is a very good chance that Chile is going to be watching the World Cup from home.
On the outside, looking in at the moment, the Chileans are,
23 points.
At the moment with 23 points. Same goal difference as Argentina, 1 point less than both Argentina and Peru, who are holding on to 4th, which Peru going directly that way. Argentina 5th in the Intercontinental playoff spot. Can Chile leapfrog those teams?
Can they? Yes, but I don't think they will, because the biggest problem they have is, well, they have 2 problems. One, Pizzi is not a very good manager. He's not a very good coach. His track record before he got the Chile job suggests that he was never a very good manager. 2, Chile, historically speaking, or at least in the modern times, in the 2000s, if you will, they're a bunch of head cases. Psychologically speaking, they've had issues. They've had issues with women coming to their hotel before a World Cup qualifier, and all kinds of madness going on with Chile. Sampaoli was able to rein that in. Again, now, psychologically, they don't have it. It happens all over the world. Well, they couldn't handle it back then. Right. I think when Borghi was the coach. So now you don't have a strong leader in Sampaoli. Who are you going to have lead the team? Alexis Sanchez? I love him to death. He plays for Arsenal, but he's a head case as well. And Chile's problem is psychologically they are not in it, and you cannot be out of it and come to World Cup qualifiers.
You talk about leaders, and the problem is that they have 4 leaders, and I don't think
that means you have none.
And I think the 4 leaders does not think the same way. Bravo, Medel, Vidal, and Sanchez. I think they are very different personalities, and it's the only national team in South America that it's not clear who is ahead, because everybody knows Neymar is in Brazil, Messi is in Argentina, Valencia is in Ecuador, and
surely it's Vidal with Chile.
Suarez and
I'm not sure.
Alexis
Sanchez.
Well, Bravo is a captain,
and Medel is definitely the spiritual leader of that team.
Yeah.
And Vidal is driving drunk before Copa America, so you can't.
The cycles on national teams are shorter than on club football, and this generation had been in the top of the continent for the last 5 years. Yeah. They were one of the best of the last World Cup qualifier. They were one of the best on the World Cup, winning both titles, going to Copa Confederations Cup. And I think they could not hold all that pressure anymore. It's the same starting 11, and the momentum is not the same.
I do want to touch on Argentina with the few seconds that we have left, because they're held to a draw at home by Venezuela. Thomas, you've mentioned that Argentina are a team that look as though they lack balance. Could you elaborate on that?
I love the fact that you got 3 lefties in the front 4, Di Maria, Dybala, and Messi. You play against the majority of teams that have somewhat of a Juventus mentality, all right? Swarming, Messi doubling, tripling as well. And we're all talking about, oh, he's brilliant, he's brilliant. The inability for Vidal with Chile, for Sanchez with Chile, but more so for Messi to understand how to utilize teammates around you better. And if you don't do that, you become very, very predictable. Brazil, a great example right now. Neymar shares, Jesus shares, Coutinho shares. Yeah, once in a while there's one of these when there's space and time, but not. Also, all the favorites, possession without purpose. Great possession. Less shots on goal than the opponent. All right? Pass completion, 92%. Sideways, backwards, never vertical as well. You have those 2 things being a negative, and the other teams, I looked at one stat, outduel them each and every time. More fouls, more duels won for the inferior teams that got results.
But Thomas, is there a lack of personality on this Argentine side? Because you heard it before, the last World Cup leading in, where they had a similar Messi dependencia. it seems like everyone on this team is waiting for Messi to do something. In Brazil, you know what? If Neymar doesn't pass, Gabi Jesus is going to say something. Coutinho's going to say something. If they don't pass to him, it's the same thing. There seems to be at least some egalitarianism on that team to the point where they feel comfortable. It almost seems like Argentina's standing on eggshells.
If I can say one more thing, I look at Jaime. Give me the midfield triangle of Brazil, real quickly. Augusto,
Casemiro, Paulinho.
Exactly. Athletes, strong. Give me the midfield triangle of PSG.
It's Mota, Verratti, Rabiot.
And that gives Neymar, that gives, obviously, in Brazil, and with PSG, the opportunity for the front three to freewheel a little bit. Because you know what? There's a block of 7 behind you that they're going to win balls.
But Argentina got away from that. In fact, Argentina have actually gone wide with the likes of Di Maria and Acosta or Acuna. And in the middle, it's 2 defensive midfielders as opposed to holders.
But their World Cup is going to be decided in this next match because we get the chance to find out if Gareca, Argentinian as well, which is a little understudy, and you even go back to that 6-0 that got Argentina in somewhat controversially a few decades ago. This is Peru's chance for revenge for that one. And this Peru under Gareca, similar to Venezuela, they cast off some of the old guard, brought in some youngsters like Acueto and stuff. This is a team that I think can surprise. And if they can go there and grab a point, I think there's a very good chance they can grab the points they need against Colombia at the end.
And I think we have to understand something with Argentina here. Doesn't matter who the coach is, Messi's running the show, and Messi is not a natural leader.
So if they miss out, is it Messi's fault?
It's 50% Messi's fault, yes, and 50% the Argentine Federation for not getting a coach who will put Messi in check. Chichi even said it. If they have to depend on Neymar, Brazil is in trouble. Same thing with Argentina. They depend on Messi, they're in trouble.
Keep us in the skin, brother.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
I got you.
I got you.
We're going to take a quick commercial timeout. When we come back, we're going to go ahead and pick some of the weekend's games for you. Barcelona, Real Madrid, all with big games coming up. In fact, the Catalan derby is coming up for Barcelona. Barca, Espanyol. We'll pick those games when we come back. Stick around. Welcome back to the Locker Room Friday night edition. I'm Andres Cordero alongside Jaime, Phil, Thomas, and George DiMattelis. Thanks for spending your time with us here on beIN Sports. Guys, big games coming up in La Liga. At least one big game when it comes to the Catalan derby, Barcelona and Espanyol. I'm going to sort of glance past the Madrid-Levante match because we don't Levante back in La Liga right now, but we don't see them taking points into Santiago Bernabeu, do we?
No. I'm just hoping Shaq Moore plays, but... By the way, scored for Levante's B team. So one step closer.
That's about as exciting as it gets. So let's go ahead and talk about this Catalan derby because Barcelona you've heard the word panic, you've heard the word crisis, you've heard about the motion to censure the president and sort of the institutional turmoil at Barcelona. Is there a sporting crisis to go along with all of this periphery, or is it the stuff around them?
There's a huge crisis. And
sporting crisis.
Board, absolutely. And from a business perspective, the fact that you now have...
Again, sporting crisis.
No confidence in the board, and I think that's going to carry over to the field. You also have the FIFA virus as well. Barcelona tends not to play that well when all of the internationals come back. Still, I think Espanyol hasn't congealed enough as a team to take advantage of that, at least to get all 3 points. They can make life difficult. I still think there's enough talent on Barcelona, and there's still the 2 new players with Dembélé and Paulinho, still something for them to prove that might be enough to carry Barcelona past their rivals.
I think that there is a crisis around the team, and there is also a political crisis in Catalonia. So this match maybe be used for anything else than football. But I think that Barcelona, it's not the team that was last year, especially what they have lost on terms of squad. But it's still the second best team in the La Liga. The difference they had with the rest of the La Liga teams was so big that they're still the second best team in La Liga. And I think that they're the favorites for winning. Espanyol finished very strongly last season, especially defensive. It was a team that defends very well. I think they were the second or the third team with less goals received or with more clean sheets on the season. And they cannot find that movement, that system again in the beginning of the season. They haven't won a match, so it's going to be a very unbalanced match.
I disagree. They're better than they were the last year or two.
Who?
I'll be real honest with you. Dembélé, somewhat unproven. is as good, believe me, as Neymar with the ball. But his athleticism and his willingness with Dortmund also to do things without the ball to stretch somebody will open up things for Suarez. Iniesta's healthy again. Semedo, you know what, is an upgrade. Paulinho is a huge upgrade in midfield because now they get legs as well. They are a much better team than last year, and they have a soft schedule. This is the only tough game out of the first 8, and Luis Suarez is coming back as well. Okay.
Watch Valencia this weekend,
during
too,
the crisis?
Watch Valencia.
I don't know. What's the crisis?
Stick around. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll go ahead and make some predictions ahead of this weekend. Big matches coming up in all of the big European leagues that we covered. Don't go away. Stay with us. You're watching The Locker Room. Welcome back to The Locker Room. It is now time for the beIN Picks presented by Soccer.com as we take a look at some of the biggest matches coming up this weekend, and we have our panel pick 'em. So let's start with Real Madrid against Levante at the Santiago Bernabeu. Jaime?
I think Real Madrid's going to win it.
Shocking.
Yeah. They haven't been 2 matches in a row without winning for a long time, and Levante has just come from second division. I think Madrid's going to win this match.
I think Levante has some good talent. They're going to stick around this year. There's a decent chance right around that cutoff spot, but this is going to be one where they just don't have the backbone that it's going to take. This is the best team on earth right now in Real Madrid, and they're still on the upswing.
If Keylor Navas was still with Levante, maybe you'd give him a chance, Thomas.
I'm writing some things down right now. Right? Let's forget the back four. Let's start with Casemiro, Kroos, Modric,
Right.
Ronaldo, Benz. Now you got Bale, Isco, Asensio. That's, to me, the biggest thing. What is Zidane going to do? Is he going to send a message to Bale? Right now, you're number 2 or maybe number 3.
Does it matter in this match against Levante?
Of course.
Okay.
If you tell Bale, you're not good enough right now to play against Levante because Isco and Asensio, I think, are better.
George?
All right.
Leave Asensio out.
Got a lot of things to get through.
Isco and Asensio playing, Real Madrid are going to win.
And if they don't? You got
Real
Levante?
Madrid are going to win. Yeah.
All right, let's move along then. The Catalan derby. Or actually, we're going ahead to Valencia against Atletico Madrid. Atleti, you mentioned Barcelona by some margin, the second best team. Atleti maybe with a chance, Atleti?
I think Atleti had the same problems that they end up last season, especially in defense. That is their main strength. I think Valencia is going to win this match.
Interesting.
I think Valencia is strengthened. I think that they are a little bit more assured in the coaching system. And I think there's still a little bit of that FIFA virus that could affect the likes of a Griezmann and company. I think that Valencia is going to pull the upset.
I can't believe what I'm hearing. I kind of agree, but Thomas?
No. Atleti had a poor first game, and then all of a sudden we saw the Atleti again. They're going to grind out wins. They're going to end up third again, and Simeone's going to end it. Finally leave at the end of the season
weekend, Atletico.
to get to Atletico 3-1.
George?
Yeah, Cholo Simeone is my favorite coach in the world. I'm picking Atletico.
Not Arsene Wenger?
Well, no. Arsenal's my team, but no, my coach is Simeone, yeah.
He's holding a big Wenger out sign right now, actually. Mentioned the Catalan derby, so are we picking that one as well?
You want Simeone to come to Arsenal?
I think Barcelona's going to win it. I explained it before why I think Barcelona is better than Espanyol. They haven't get a win in this beginning of the season. I think Barcelona is going to take the Catalan derby.
Espanyol do tend to try and kick Barcelona out of the park in games like this.
Perhaps, although not as much as they did a couple of seasons ago. This is the coming out party for Dembélé, I think. Paulinho with the longer trek, maybe a little bit tired, spot duty in the second half. I think Dembélé gets the start here, and I think he could just tear Espanyol apart.
2 more games and we have 60 seconds, Thomas.
I'm just writing their starting 11 right now. Alba, and you know what? I agree with you 100%. They all of a sudden look again. Alba's more comfortable, looks a better player. Samedo is a great choice on the right side as well. Busquets, Paulinho, / Iniesta, you know, the top 3. They are a much better team than last year. Umtiti has become a better player too with this experience.
Right. George?
For people to say they're in a crisis.
I got Espanyol.
Georgie,
I say
go with me. George,
Espanyol, LOL.
go with me.
Luis, Osman, Lionel. That means Barca's going to win. Because Espanyol have no chance. LOL.
And lastly, Juventus Kiev. We'll get into Serie A. Actually, let's go 2 games to Serie A. If we could do this quickly. Juve Kiev.
Juve Kiev or Juve?
Yeah.
They're the favorites for the title. They're favorites for winning every single match at home.
Chievo on the roller coaster again, and Juve is going to push him down.
Thomas? Juve or Kiev? Juventus.
Yeah.
He wants to disagree, but he can't.
Yeah, George, I'm guessing you're going to go Juventus. Nobody's picking a flying donkey.
Nobody's picking a flying donkey. No, it's going to be Juve.
All right, you guys talk too much. We don't have time to get into any more of the Serie A games. So we are done. Thank you so much for spending time with us here on beIN Sports to pick 'em, presented by Soccer.com. Join us every Monday and Friday for The Locker Room on beIN Sports.
By the way, Milan on the road, a win today this weekend.
Lazio.
Let's go. Vamos, Milan.